kind of like one of my... I'm not really like the most sensible person in the world, but it's actually the one area of my career where I was very careful. I've never ever been overstretched, as in I've always said no a lot. And it actually led to a period, I think Marvel thought I actually worked slower than I did. As in I deliberately left like a sprint, essentially. As if something goes completely wrong and you need a script like in half a day or some insanity, I could probably do it. As in my schedule is free enough so there is room for me dying, my legs stop working. You know, as opposed to I've only very briefly worked for periods to have, I've saved the sprint essentially. And the classic problem as both a writer and artist is knowing what you can do. Just because you can do it, you think you will be able to do it. It's like Jamie is a good example. I mean, Jamie's mostly good at this, but Jamie had pneumonia in the last couple of weeks, and that obviously, Jamie's been coughing up blood for 2 weeks, that puts a crimp in his productivity.
And if he's scheduled too tight, then you're in trouble. But if he's scheduled really tight.
And if he's scheduled too tight, then everyone's in trouble, but if he has room to breathe, you've got room to play around with things. But you can be the victim of your own success sometimes. By like, you do really well and then you get loads of other offers, like, excellent. But if you overload yourself, you can really, really damage your career.
And if you've got too much work, it's going to be shit. You know, it's like kind of
quality suffers.
You know, and it only hurts you because everyone thinks you're rubbish. You know, don't be that needy.
I just want to say before we leave this panel, before I forget, listen to everything that this guy says right here. Declan knows what he's talking about. He worked with me a few months ago on Northlanders. He did 3 issues for me, and I wish that he did all 50 issues because he's amazing. He's amazing. He's local. If you see him, listen to everything he says because he knows what he's talking about. And you asked how do you stay in the business? What would Declan do? That's how you stay. All right? Yeah, like that's it, man. Total pro. Super talented and just a joy to work with, and yeah, I just had to be said. I want to get that. He's terrific, and you should.
But I remember there was kind of a problem when I was doing.
Yeah, he also came in and saved my ass, which helps a lot too. You know,
it's very firm.
Yeah. Thank you. No, but in all honesty, I was in a bit of a bind, and I didn't know what I was going to do, and the writer of Northlanders, Brian, mentioned you, and he said, I think you'd be great, I don't know what he's doing though, and so I called you up, and you said, and you were, I think you were doing 2 books?
No, I was only doing 1.
All right, he was doing something else, but he sat down and he seriously thought about it, and he said, I think I can do this, I think I can work it out, and he came back to me and said, okay, yeah, I can do it.
Like that was a great opportunity. It was one of my favorite books. Sorry,
it was one of my favorite books, and it was going to end. Like, I'd never get another opportunity.
It was the last story arc.
So it was an amazing opportunity. What do I do? And I had to properly look at my schedule, and because I was scheduled properly at Marvel, I wasn't overworked, I hadn't taken too much on, I could do it. But I knew I couldn't do any more than that. And other people asked me to do stuff, and I knew if I did it, I'd ruin both opportunities. So, but it was really tough. I had to figure out it was tight, but I was able to do it. But I know my limits, that's the one thing.
Right.
I know what I can and can't do, and I don't, it's safer to be slow and sure rather than overwork yourself, because something's going to break.
And if I had called him and he said, no, I really can't swing it, but thank you so much, and I'd love to work with you down the road, I would respect that too, and I would call him down the road, you know, but which is what you were saying before, Mark. But he knew he could do it, and he did it, and he killed it, and now I can't wait to work with him again.
Another thing that Mark just said I wanted to build upon, it's not just getting to know the editors in the industry and submitting to them, it's also getting to know your fellow writers and artists, because like you said, Brian Wood was the one who recommended him.
And Jeff Parker.
And Jeff Parker for T-Bolt. So many times when we're casting books or talking about things, you know, be it, you know, Bendis or Fraction or Kieron will come say, you know, I really like this guy's work, why don't you check it out? And you know, they travel to just as many conventions as we do, they meet people that we don't, everybody runs in different circles online. So getting to know people in those circles is just as important, because they might be the ones who recommend you for the gig.
So I'd argue it's more important because
well, definitely. I'd argue it's more important because it's better if somebody else can vouch for you. Like, this guy is good. It's very difficult for me to go to like, I'm good, hire me. I mean, I wouldn't even take that seriously. But if somebody else says, I like this guy, I'd like to work with him, he's professional, that speaks way more, I think.
Yeah, no, for sure. I work with Jason Aaron, who has written Wolverine for Jeanine, is working on Wolverine and the X-Men currently, and he's going to be launching Thor: God of Thunder. And I had gone to New York Con maybe 2 years ago, and and Jason was sitting there he was flanked by these bald guys. Like, who are these guys? And Jason's like, oh, well, this is Cullen Bunn, and this is Jason Latour. Like, you should meet them. You should like what they do. And with Cullen, with Cullen, he'd been writing Sixth Gun, and like Axel was very excited about him. Oh, you need to meet this guy. And so I ended up. He came to the office he was in town for a convention. We sat down and we started talking about like crappy '80s action movies. Like we both have this great this passion for Tango and Cash with Kurt Russell and Sylvester Stallone. And so we had this whole conversation about it, and I was like, I have this book that I really like. This is kind of the tone that I want to do with it. Like, do you want to write this book? And he's like, yes. And so this kind of lunch ended up with him working on this project with me. And then with Jason Latour, I had met him as an artist, and I wasn't really, so I had an anthology that needed like an Iron Fist story, and I was like, you know what? I'm curious to see what he's like working with him is like, and so he did that, and it turned out really well. And so he ended up. And so I was working with Tom Brevoort on the anniversary issue for Captain America, and Colin was working with us, and he's like, the tour guy, we should bring him on for art. Oh, okay, great. So we did that, and it was wonderful. And then Jason's Loose Ends came out. I don't know if you picked that up with 10 Gauge, I think is doing it. And he had written that. He was like, wow, this guy's not only, he's like kind of a double threat. And so I was like, I put that away in the back of my head, and seeing that, and I was like, I really want to work with this guy. I want to, like, is there a book that I can put him on? And then when I found out that Ed Brubaker was leaving Winter Soldier, I was like, this is the moment. This is this guy that I'd had like in my mental Rolodex. And I called him up, and he pitched me, and it was like, it was a gold mine. It was the best thing. It was like the greatest, like perfect storm. And then I got this guy in covers, so it's.
Latour is actually a triple threat because he can sing too.
Maybe quadruple because he also plays basketball.
Well, there you go. I just want to make sure, I don't know how much longer this is going, but I want to make sure that we have time for questions. Yeah, because we'll talk all day. Three questions.
All right, these need to be the best.
I'm not going to pick who's asking the question.
If you have a question, please raise your hand. Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, Jeanine was saying like she can't look at a Spider-Man pitch or something, right?
Yeah,
Isn't that what you mean?
Yeah,
With their characters, because legally you don't want to be like sued down the road like, oh, that was my idea for Spider-Man and they stole it and I emailed it to them on this date, like, so that's why they can't look at it, right?
And we can't. I mean, we also art-wise, we can't look at, like, if you wrote and drew your own samples, we can't look at them if you just send them to us. Like, for those of you who did portfolio reviews, we had you sign form basically that said, hey, we understand that Marvel's not going to steal my stuff, and I'm willfully submitting this, and I understand, kind of how this works, and blah blah blah. So, but if you have something published, if it's a webcomic that's out there, if it's in the public, it's in public. I mean, other people see that it's published. It's a webcomic. It's a zine that you've self-published. It's, you've worked with, I don't know, press XYZ, whatever it is, that is a published piece of literature that I can look at, and there's no danger of, there being some sort of legal.
Yeah, I mean, a couple folks gave me self-published stuff yesterday. You gave me a book yesterday, yeah, so I mean, we look at stuff. But does that answer the question? Go ahead.
I was very interested, pleased to hear you talking about style. People sometimes emphasize style because of what style to draw. Is that, if you all have that attitude, something new, something that's actually stuck to you true reflection of that person, where they see the world, where they interpret the story. Is there a tension then between yourselves and maybe the people higher up in the organisation who are kind of saying, oh, that works, let's do that?
Is there tension between us and people higher up the food chain? Yeah, absolutely, because sometimes, because we all have our opinions, and I might really like something, and but I think good bosses. Our executive editor, Karen Berger at Vertigo, she has her opinion, I have my opinion, and we butt heads sometimes. But she hired me for my opinion, and so I just have to forcefully tell her, no, I really, really want to do this, But yeah, there's some back and forth sometimes, but I think ultimately, especially for us, we want to take a chance. I mean, Vertigo, we're trying to do something different, so we don't have that problem.